Why don't we just go round, and I'll call your name and say where we're all from. Okay, so Rochelle, do you want to begin?
Okay, I'm Rochelle King. I'm partner with Patsy in All About Dementia. I'm running the business at the moment with Tracy being furloughed, but we're going to keep going, and I do thank everybody for your support. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Do you want to go, Anne-Marie?
I'm Anna Lever. I'm from Crawford Court Care Home near Melton Mowbray. We're COVID clear, thank God, and we have a residential care home. So that's me, yeah.
Very good. Where's your partner in crime?
She's on her way. She's busy.
Oh, I thought she would be.
You know what she's like.
I thought she would
in a minute, and that's Sally when she comes. You'll see her. She's got purple hair. She'll be with me in a minute.
Yes, she always has quite. Yeah. Okay.
Now
Oh, hiya. I'm Hilary. I work for Conley in Denbighshire Mental Health Advocacy Service. I'm a community advocate and a relevant persons representative.
Okay, all right. And Sarah?
I work with Hilary at CADMAS. We've got a bit of a CADMAS contingent. I think if there's ever any PATS training, we're like, right, yes, we'll go.
Well, thank you for being loyal.
So I'm a relevant persons representative as well, but I'm also an IMCA, an independent mental capacity advocate.
Right. I must admit, when I came to your office, I was so impressed with all of you, but I was hoping you'd kind of follow me. I just liked all of you and where you were coming from and how you were thinking about things. I also you had good sweets on the table.
Yeah.
That always helps.
It's always
okay, all right. Yeah. So I'm not going to go to now. Let me go to Ellen. Ellen.
Hi, Patsy. How are you?
Who we are.
Hello, how are you today? I'm Ellen and I'm a training officer for Gwynedd Council.
Okay, all right. Paul?
I'm another one of the CADMAS contingent. I'm an RPR.
Yeah.
And I work in care.
Okay, all right, Suzanne.
I actually work for a university, which has nothing to do with any of this. But yeah, I care for my dad with my mum and my sister, and Dad's got dementia and Alzheimer's at the moment, and we're having a bit of a rough time at the moment. So I'm appreciative of any pointers and guidance and help that you can give really at the moment.
Well, certainly, I think if you've got any questions, please ask them. Because, you know, I'm so used to working in a live room where I've got everyone kind of feeding back to me all the time. So when I'm just literally talking to the screen, it kind of is alien for me. So really ask questions. John, I'm talking to John. Isn't there? John, you introduce everybody. Go on. Tell us who you are.
I'm Sue Evans. I'm working in Ruthin, and you remember me from the day centre.
Of course. And John is with you too. Is that John is your husband or no?
John's. I'm looking after Marion. Can I show Marion? Yeah. I'm looking after Marion here.
Hello. Hi.
Say hello.
Hi. Hi.
Marion's from Abersoch, but she's living in Ruthin.
Okay.
Oh, Abersoch.
Yeah. With her son John, and I'm on John's computer.
So you've got your two. Okay, Kyle's with you. That's great. Have I done everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sally's here now.
Yeah, you're here now. Do you want to say your name and anything? They're in from Melton Mowbray where the pork pies are.
Hi everyone.
They never get me any when I'm there.
I'll bring you some.
Okay, all right. Well, today, it was mainly due to our idea was to put on a Tuesday something out for families. But clearly we're not getting much family involvement because I just don't think they're seeing us. They don't know we're here, to be honest. So I've got all of you lovely people, which is fine.
We've got Suzanne. We've got Suzanne. She's
So I'm going to talk
family.
about the stuff that we had on the list to talk about. And for some of you who've already done training with me, you know, I've already talked about this probably to you. But it was meant for a new audience. However, I'll run through it real quick and then maybe take questions or, you know, talk about things so that we can see where we're all coming from. So the first thing I was going to talk about was quizzing and arguing. And
All right, it
is really, really hard when a parent or a spouse or a sibling that you're looking after, someone that you know really well, it's really hard not to argue because we've got familial ties and a lot of history. And I know with my mum and with one of my aunts, they both had dementia, and even though I know not to argue with them, it was the hardest thing in the world for me not to do, because they knew how to push my buttons. They put them there. They're the ones who put them there. And so I know how hard that is to do with someone who's a family member. But we just got to remember that when we quiz them, we put them on the spot. And people with dementia don't respond well to being put on the spot. They know you want an answer, or they know you want words, or they know you want them to do something. And so the more they can read anxiety in your face or your voice, and that you're more insistent about what you need to know, the worse they're going to have trouble giving you what you're asking for. And they realize they're failing. And then what happens is they go into argument mode. They're going to change the subject and start arguing with you, because they have, and we said this last week, rational memory not strong, ability to rationalize, think things through, not great in dementia, emotional, all of my feelings, very easy to get into because that's still there. So what we have is, if you're asking for rational, you know, who came and saw you last week, Mum? What man? Who was it you came? If you start doing that type of thing and they can't remember any man coming to visit them, and they can't give you a name anyway, maybe they've lost words, they can't give you nouns. So what they do is they go back into feeling emotionally kind of trapped. And so they just start bringing something up about you that they know they can have an argument with you about. And so when we're looking after loved ones, we've really got to be careful of that. That we don't push them too much, because a lot of people don't realize what exactly is happening to the brain. And they're not aware that the part that rationalizes and answers questions and can come up with concrete answers is not working well. And therefore, I'm going to push them into emotional memory, and the emotional memory is not going to make much sense, and then we're in an argument and someone's crying. So if you can try, especially with family members, not to go there. Now, obviously, as a worker, if I'm working with someone, it's a bit easier because they don't know me that well. They don't know how to push my buttons. And I think when we're at work, we're in work mode and we can think things through just a little bit better. However, when it's a loved one, it's a whole different ball game, really. So just to stop yourself doing that before it escalates into an argument, because you can't win. You can't win an argument with someone with dementia. They're not rational. So you need to distance yourself. And a trick can be changing the subject. And one of the things that we do whenever you want someone to get onto a different subject is go, oh, I forgot to tell you. The minute you do that, they switch. They're like, you can see them look at you like, what? You forgot to tell me what? And immediately they've gone on to that other subject. Whatever you're going to come out with now is what they're going to be thinking about. So it's just, oh, I forgot to tell you, I brought that thing I need to show you. Go down that road with them, because just get them from where they are on the repetitiveness and the emotion. It gets them into thinking, oh, well, what is it? Where do we need to go? Just easier now for you then to lead them into a more calm manner. And I often tell people, you know, if someone's trying to get out, they want to go out the door, and you know the weather's bad or it's not safe, or it's the wrong time of night that they should be going out. One of the ways to stop that isn't to give them a rational reason why they can't go out. Rationality isn't working well. They're going to be emotional. I need to get to. I need to know where my children are. It's dark. They're going emotionally down that road. So you've then got to go that, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you, I've got one thing. Come and I'll show you this. And then we'll go. By the time you get them somewhere else and involved in something else, they'll forget what they were doing. So it's just using little tricks, and also a lot of self-control. And I know that's easier said than done, because particularly for family members who are with them 24/7, that's hard to do, to have self-control under those circumstances. So quizzing and arguing, not great. Asking for nouns. Who was it? Who said that? Who gave you that? Who are you talking about? You're asking for nouns, and unfortunately in Alzheimer's, nouns will be very thin on the ground, and so the more you ask, the more kind of anxious they get. So we've always found that if you need an answer really quick, give them the wrong answer. Didn't we need to go to the shops right now? And then maybe they'll tell you, no, I've got to go and do this first. In a way, what you're doing is you're going in the back door, and you're giving up their ability to correct you is better than their ability to answer you.
Yeah, sit with me.
You're giving the wrong thing. Like I always say to clinics, receptionists, even ambulance men, taxi drivers, give them the wrong name or address and say, aren't you Mary Jones? The minute you say that, we'll go, oh no, I'm Gladys Smith. They correct you well. But if I say to them, what's your name? Oh, what's my name? And then they can't get it. So when we're quizzing them, make sure that we step back.
Relax.
If we need to know info, give them the wrong info, and then just sit back and let them correct you, because they can still correct you, whereas they can't answer a direct question. So that's just two little tips. I was going to ask, really, for people to give me questions, but just real quick, someone asked me this week about, do I keep them active? You've got to remember that once they get into mid-stage dementia, their ability to sleep is not going to be great. People with dementia, all of the different types of dementia, tend to have sleep disorders. Now, if they didn't have dementia, they would probably be getting treated at a sleep clinic, because they would have this sleep problem. We know Alzheimer's, it's always apnea. They have a problem with the throat anyway. Apnea is one of their big deals. However, with other dementias, the ability to sleep just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And what they do is they can go into the sleep cycle, and they can do light sleep or napping, but then they'll wake up. If they go into the dream stage, because when we look at the cycle, we go into light sleep, then we go into napping, and then we go into deep sleep. Most of them nap. They look asleep, but they're just napping. And they do that constantly all day, particularly as the dementia progresses. If they're in mid-stage, what they tend to do is they tend to wake up when they're in the dream state. Now, for you and I, sometimes we do that. We're in the middle of the dream, we wake up, and that dream will be very vivid to us for about a couple of hours. In fact, we tell people about, oh, I had the weirdest dream last night. Every night you had weird dreams. You just can't remember them. But because I woke up out of a dream state, the dream stays with me. Now, in dementia, you've got an extra problem. If I wake up out of a dream in dementia, the dream carries on. So a lot of people think they're hallucinating. But what they're doing is they didn't wake up and we're supposed to come out of the cycle of sleep in the light stage. We start in the light stage, we go round into deep sleep, and then we come back out in the light stage. But if I come out in the dream stage, I'm coming out the wrong door. But we've all got alarm clocks, we've got places we need to be. It might not, you know, I've got to wake up when I've got to wake up. However, with dementia, their brain is waking them up. And if I come out in the, you know, I remember my mum, whenever she'd wake up, she'd be looking for a kid underneath the bed. She just had this reoccurring dream. There's a little boy underneath the bed. And that was just her thing. She was, and she, one of her grandsons, she was really, really worried about. And I think that was her emotional memory that constantly kicked her back into being worried about this one particular grandson. And she saw him as a very little kid, and he lived under her bed. And she was really, really worried about him because she didn't think he had a father. Now, my brother-in-law, who's a really good dad, and was going in to see my mother all the time with the kids. He was there, but she thought that this, and so she dreamed about him, not having a dad. She was really worried about him. What's everyone going to say? How is he going to live his life? Oh, people will be picking on him. Oh, this will be awful. And that was one of the worries that she had in her dementia that never went away. And she would wake up, and the first thing she'd look for was him under the bed, because that's where she thought he was living. So it's not hallucination. It's the brain reworking worries. And we often, when we're asleep, our brain, when we get into dream stage, it's filing things anyway. All the things you did today, everything you saw on the telly, everything you worried about, all the weird things you heard today, all go into your brain. And when you're in dream sleep, they're all getting filed away. That's how the brain works. It's a filing system. And unfortunately, it doesn't do it in order. So when it's filing things, it's just, okay, all the visual stuff's getting filed now. All right, all the things emotional getting filed now. All the academic things that you learned today getting filed now. So it's quite, the way the memory is stored during dream sleep is quite haphazard. It doesn't seem to make sense. It does to the brain, but it doesn't to us. And so that's why our dreams often contain very real truths about us and about what we're worried about and about what we're thinking. But if I tell you what I dreamt about, it just sounds like a really strange story. So dreams are really important, and so is sleep when we look at dementia, because we now know that it's one of the main symptoms of people with dementia is disordered sleep patterns, which then affect their wake behavior. It's now a symptom. You know, WHO, World Health Organization, added dream disruption to sleep disorders and dream disruption to the symptoms of dementia about 4 years ago now. So a lot of the confusion could be coming from a clinical sleep disorder that's on board. And we all think of memory loss, and we think of, you know, confusion. But when you really think about it, a lot of it could have to do with what they're dreaming about. So just so that we know that, and we're aware of that, and this is what maybe where this is coming from, and this story is coming from, and this worry is coming from, this is the land of dreams. So to go back to my original point, they never get deep sleep. And if I can't get deep sleep, I'm exhausted all the time. So people with dementia are exhausted. So the last thing we want to do is put them on some program to get all their energy flowing. In the early stages, physical fitness is important. In the mid stage, they're gonna have a lot of emotional energy that they're expelling. They tend to start losing weight in the mid stage, and we see the emeralds going into ambers, and suddenly they're very frail. They're using so much energy just to live a day that they don't need an awful lot of activity and exercise put on them. By the end stage, they are literally exhausted because they're just not getting sleep over long periods of time. So for us to want to push them to keep active, I think is very much a child of our times, that idea. And yeah, it has its place, but it doesn't always have its place. There comes a time in certain disease processes where actually it will work against you. So a lot of people get on bandwagons about it. I know I've had private clients who, you know, the families have been saying to me, she needs to get out, she needs to go to the things she was doing, she needs to go to the community centre, she needs to go walking in the park with those women that she used to walk with. We need to get her to do all of this. And literally, their loved one is on the couch like this. She can't even stay awake for a small discussion. This woman's got really bad sleep problems. And if we don't realise that that's part of dementia, we can push them too much. And so we never want to do that. We want to let them show us what energy they need to expel and when, and not push them to do other things which may exhaust them.
Patsy.
So I hope that makes sense to you. Sleep disorders, dream disorders are part of dementia. Yeah.
Sorry. What do you think then about the use of medication like Zopiclone and things which they use to help people sleep? Is it actually of any benefit or not?
What they've done is the sleep scientists have worked with all of that. They've worked with sleep apnea machines, they've worked with the sleep meds that they give them. The problem is that in the elderly, number one, you've got a lot less kidney function. So the toxins are harder to get rid of. From any drug. On top of that, a dementia brain is having a breakdown of a chemical called tau. And tau, basically, once it breaks down, your cell deflates. So any toxin that's in the cell gets stuck in the cell, and the cell just dies. So the more toxins I put into their brain cells, the more dead cells I have. And then we have these MRIs where they've got a tiny little brain working. And it's because the rest of the brain has already died. So I think I would always be very, very careful of any medication route to solve an issue. I mean, in a perfect world, we would have 24/7 care. Whether that's in the care home, whether that's in the home, we have carers, and it doesn't matter whether it's night or day, they can be awake when they're awake, asleep when they're asleep, and if they're you know, wanting to go sit outside, they can sit outside at 3 in the morning as long as they're wrapped up well in the cold. In a perfect world, we would just respond to when they have their energy. But what we try and do is we try and put them all back on our schedule. Well, we mainly work during days, so if you've got activities, we'll do them in the day. You should be asleep at night, so let's try and get your meds to make you asleep, because we've only got 3 staff working, or we've got nobody who can come in and be with you during the night. So that's all not person-centered care. What that is systemized care. They're basically asking the person with dementia to adhere to a system that is very difficult for them to adhere to. And we're solving it with issues like medication that may not necessarily be improving quality of life or the best thing for that person. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Any meds, I'm always like, less meds is the best way to go. Because we'll keep the tau, you know, tau's not going to function much, but we'll keep tau, at least some of the cells, clear if we're not flooding it with medication.
Yeah, no, that was helpful, thank you.
Okay, anybody else with any on sleep?
Patsy,
Oh, sorry.
Where are you? Yes. Go on, ask me.
When talking about residents that sleep a lot, obviously we know our residents inside out at the care home.
Yeah.
We had a dolls assessor that decided to turn up at the weekend once to do an assessment on a particular resident that her sleep pattern is she will sleep when she wants to sleep. You know, she'll graze when she wants to graze, that's her.
Right.
She reported us to the dolls team because she was that sleepy.
Yeah.
But that's her.
The problem is we're in a system that doesn't talk to one another. And we're in a system where if you're not specializing in dementia, the knowledge that you have on board probably is inadequate. So, you know, we've kind of let the people with dementia down in the sense that if this was children, believe me, everybody on the team would know exactly what was going on with that child and why it's all happening. But in our system with elderly, there's ageism. And so, to be honest, there's a lot of people who are in quite powerful jobs or doing kind of, you know, inspector mode, all of them, that may not have had updated training, that may not have been, you know, catching up on the internet every weekend and seeing what's out there. So I think they do it with a really good heart. I think they think, oh, this isn't right and we need to report this on. But the fact is, when usually you get them around a table and you're talking to them about why they thought it wasn't right, it's because they didn't have enough information on board to understand the person they were trying to assess.
Well, she'd never met this lady before.
Yeah.
How can you assess? How can you assess somebody that you don't know when we know her inside out?
Yeah.
To make that assumption.
Exactly.
She's not. Yeah, she didn't even read the care plan.
I mean, the system is broken, and unless I don't know what's going to happen now, it might change because you know, I think a lot of things are going to change because of the virus. But certainly, and I mean, when I go down to London, I've been down to London several times before all this happened. And when you hear what people are saying, like at the CQC or at the dementia meetings that are totally for all of the United Kingdom, when you go down there and listen to all what they're saying, they're all saying the right stuff, but it's not trickling down into the individual areas. And so you're fighting a system versus, you know, because in their own way, they think they're doing right. They think that sounds like a really good thing. And if they see that's wrong, well, I must pass that on because this is, but no one's ever sat down and actually talked to them about, okay, let's look at what WHO says about sleep disorders with dementia. Let's look at this lady and who she is. Let's look at how well we know her and what her patterns are. I mean, you know, I've got people in my family and they are night people. They're not going to be in bed all night. My husband's worked nights as much as he could all his career because he'd sooner be up in the middle of the night. Like, he wants to sleep all day. Well, I put him in a care home. They'll want him up all day, and then they'll be wondering why he's wandering around at night. And it's just that whole person-centered mandate that we have can't work unless we're all working as a team.
Exactly.
And the ones that are above us often are the ones that are stopping us from doing what actually is person-centered. Because they haven't clued in to what that is.
Thank you.
No, you're doing what? Listen, I'm not worried about you lot at all. I know you well enough. I'm not worried about you. So yeah, I know how that is. Anybody else? Yeah, hello.
Hi. Can I just ask a question, just from a carer's point of view? Obviously, yeah. I've had a bit of Samaritan's training behind my bit psychology background and everything, so I think I've managed to distance myself from that sort of too much emotional contact with my dad. Right. What I am struggling with is supporting my mum, who's there 24/7. And she's last week and this week has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm trying to feed those bits of information on and the perspectives onto her, but she's very much I need to tell him how to do this, I need to get him to do that, I need him to understand this, and I'm finding that a challenge with her. Do you have any hints for helping me to help her almost?
In a way, she has to realize that she has to let go of the man he was prior to the dementia.
Yeah.
And so in a way, she has to grieve that particular man at that stage in his life, because she's missing him and wants him back.
They never really got on.
Well, maybe though that could also be playing into it, you know.
Yeah.
She
Yes,
still
still
thinks
cross.
maybe it's that man that she wasn't getting on with, and so she's going to have a bit of a fight over everything.
Very much.
But either way, you've got to grieve it. You've got to go, that part of that life is gone now. So it really helps if you can find out where he is in his life journey, because he'll be somewhere, and it'll come out. He'll say, you know, he's going to so and so to work. I need to go. And when did he work there?
Yeah.
We can kind of be a detective and look and go, hold on, I think he thinks he's around 30.
Yeah.
And then once we know that, if we find out as much as we can about that time in his life, then maybe helping your mum understand that and the things that would work for that 30-year-old versus who he is now. Maybe actually she quite like the 30-year-old a bit better. You know what I mean? I think that it should give them a bit of a new lease in life if she can let go of who she thinks he is, and accept who he is now.
I think that has actually hit the nail on the head for me, because that's really, really helpful. Not to go into too much detail, but I don't think things were very good for her at the beginning of their marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he is now.
Well, there you go.
Been apologising for things that might have happened at the time, which is obviously causing her a little bit of emotional pain.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I'm going to carry on working, is trying to get her to grieve, like you say, and let go. It's no longer him anymore.
Yeah.
You know, as difficult it is, he's there. He's lovely. He's always been lovely. He's still lovely.
Yeah.
Blessed. That's really, really fortunate. But he's not who she wanted him to be or ever will be.
Yeah.
But that's really, really helpful. Thank you very much.
I think in their generation as well, you were just kind of there for life.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever happened, you stuck by one another. And generations since then maybe haven't done that. And I think the commitment and the contract till death do us part means a lot to elderly people.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's nice for them to just be told it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. That if you don't like this person, we can work around that. We can get there. We just need to work around it.
Yeah.
So good luck. And any questions you have, just email me and I'll email you. Okay.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very
any
much.
help whatsoever.
Yeah. No, these are really helpful sessions.
Anything else you wanted to? This has been the best one yet. People have been out.
Is it worth telling them what we're doing next? We're doing the grief and
thanks to Ellen at Gwynedd. I asked what she felt was needed, and one of the things, and I totally agree, is really how are staff going to cope with the things that have gone on. And also families, how, you know, after this virus is winding down and we've gone over the peak and we start to come out of lockdown, that's going to be the time where people are really realizing about loss and about the fear that we all had, because I think we're all managing our fear really well, but we also are wondering, you know, have I got it? And what's going to happen to me, or what would happen to my loved one? I think we're definitely going through a lot of trauma at the moment. So I think definitely I want to look at grief and the grief process next time, so that we, if we're going through it, we can recognize it and realize what it is. And then secondly, I don't think we talk enough about post-traumatic stress.
Mm.
And a lot of us, from things that have happened in our lives, I mean, we don't need to have been to a war. We don't need to have been in a plane crash.
No.
A lot of us have post-traumatic stress from working certain places, or from going through particular relationships, or for things that maybe have happened to someone we loved. And I think that that's important, that we maybe look at flashbacks and how emotional flashbacks can literally literally sweep you away, because they just come and they're right there and you weren't expecting them. So the next one I'm going to do, I won't do it this week, I'll do it the following week. Rochelle will send out an invitation. It's just going to be half an hour. However, I think once we get back out of lockdown, I think my therapist will come out with me, because I think we need to actually have a kind of a day where we do a little bit of training about what it is, but then a little bit of kind of group breakout sessions where we can all talk and unload and share. And we can do that if we're all in one room. And I can certainly help you with any of that. But I just think we're going to need it to move on. Because it is terrifying what we're going through. I mean, it literally is a horror film, isn't it? You know, a pandemic came and we weren't ready and we didn't know. And so I want to start working on that now. And so I'll do a half hour next week, and then I'll listen to what you have to say to me, and then we'll start building up something that maybe September, October, hopefully we'll all be out of lockdown, and then maybe we can do something then that will kind of help us get through it.
I think that would be very, very useful, Patsy.
I totally agree. I mean, the minute you said that, I thought obvious, they all are going to need that. And also the ability to, you know, what humans do, when humans, ever since we've been walking the earth, when we lose people, we memorialize them. Whether we paint, you know, handprints on a cave wall, or whether we're doing burial sites and building mounds over the burial sites, or whatever we're doing, humans need to memorialize what they've lost. And even if it's just getting a plaque, you know, if you've had people die with the virus, a plaque that says these are people we lost. It's just that need to keep them still valid. And I think that that's really, really important that we try and do that. So that's where I'm going to go. That's kind of my project now as we're moving out, hopefully, of the pandemic. That I can kind of focus on all of that with you.
I'll certainly make sure I send you, everybody will get an invite. And if there's anything anyone particularly wants, whether you want it personal or you want it as a group, we can do anything really. And we're really happy for your support. So just let us know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. It's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it because you all fed back to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Well, keep safe, and I'll see you next week. Okay.
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Okay, gang. Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.